748, which was tabled 2 meetings ago, I believe. It's on packet page 54.
Yes.
So we probably need a motion to untable it.
Yeah, if we could, just for some discussion, and we can put it back on the table if that's what the members prefer. So.
I'll make a motion to table it. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Is anybody opposed to untabling this item? Hearing no opposition, this item is hereby untabled. It's on the table now. Okay.
All right. So essentially, at our discussion when we first tabled this motion, there was some question about whether we're going to table it indefinitely or whether we tabled it some time definite. We picked this date to come back and report on what we know about the plumbing plans. So that's the reason why you see it back in front of you today. Included in the packet then is the latest correspondence between Chris Eckenrode and Peter Regenberg. So during the public comments section, I know Dr. Wimer had raised this issue about kind of who met with Chris. I think the council members know that the council members met with him, and there were some additional issues raised, and those are the questions that Chris then sent to Peter. Peter's answers are in red. I contacted Chris Eckenrode to see if he had any additional concerns about this. He indicated to me that he is not concerned about the responses. He thinks that they have adequately addressed the concerns that have been raised. I then asked him if he would be available to come in and meet with council to do the one more workshop. As we had talked about doing a workshop, we had indicated that maybe February 3rd might be a possible date. He could make that date work, but he would prefer a Wednesday or a Thursday, I think, because again, he's traveling down from Pennsylvania. So basically what you have in front of you, again, is the latest correspondence. There hasn't been any additional back and forth between Rockwool and Chris other than this document. And then again, it supplements that previous response we had, which I had sent out to the council members earlier.
If I could just clarify, because I can hear the grumblings from the crowd, there was not a meeting of a quorum of the city council meeting with this engineer and the Charlestown Utility Board. It was small groups of city council members meeting independently over there and having our questions answered to him. It was not a meeting.
Yeah, thanks. Definitely better clarification than what I said. Thank you. So I think part of the question the mayor and I were talking about this morning is, do we still schedule a workshop to go over the plumbing plans at this point? I know it was a little bit of back and forth about maybe it's just the engineers talking to each other until they got comfortable. So
my thought is the expectation to the public is that we're going to have a public hearing, a workshop with the plumbing plans. And I think the purpose of the individuals meeting with the engineer was so we'd actually know what we're talking about when we do the workshop. And so I would like to see the workshop happen again. If he can do the February the 6th, I think is what you said, or the 3rd, which would be before our normal city council meeting.
Well, he's saying that that's not ideal. He'd prefer that it be again Wednesday or Thursday. Let me confirm that.
We can do that. I guess the first question is everybody still on board with doing the workshop for the plans?
I see value in a workshop that members of the public can come and sit in on and have the benefit of the same type of information that we were able to. And I really appreciate everyone who worked so hard to make that happen. It was very reassuring to be able to sit there and be like, please answer this in a way I can understand. Can you come at it from a different direction? And it really was helpful. And I would like members of the public to maybe not necessarily open questions, but maybe we would want to consider if they had a specific question that they felt that we had not asked and our engineer had not asked, that they could submit that to us as your representatives, and we may bring those questions. So I would like to encourage any member of the public who has a question that they feel that we did not get an answer to use use us to bring those questions.
I have a hard time thinking that a workshop. I want to have a workshop. My issue is that we still don't have the complete plumbing plans from Rockwool. We have what they have allowed us to see and what they have submitted to us. During my session with Mr. Eckenrode, he hadn't even seen certain schematics that the city has in its possession. And we went and actually printed one of those out from the utility board's printers and brought it to him, and that wasn't even included in what he had seen. And so not only did he not even analyze all of the documents that we have, he hasn't seen any bit of their process water system. Basically, their line of thinking is you are only allowed to see the sanitary side of things because that's what you're involved in. We refuse to show you any of the process water side of things.
If I could just interrupt.
Absolutely.
I don't think they refused. We didn't ask for that process water. At least to my knowledge, we didn't ask for it. I don't think they refused to let us see it. I think if we asked for it, we would get it. They were basically, this is my impression of it, they were basically, we wanted to see what was going in the system.
I would have to look back on the specific questions that were included in our last packet that aren't in this one, but I believe he references certain things, and some of their answers even alluded to the fact that that's not a requirement of something that we have to give you. And I don't want to say that without having it in front of me from the last packet, but I mean, Mr. Hennessy,
I get something like that.
yeah, I mean, they're not giving us the process water. They're saying that that's not involved. You're not involved in that, and that's the whole thing that we're kind of trying to figure out here. Is the process water system tapped into the sanitary sewer system? So by simply saying, oh, well, it's not, we promise, that's kind of inadequate for me. In my session, Mr. Eckenrode praised the, quote, closed loop system that Rockwool supposedly has, which I would like to just pound it in there. It is not a closed loop system when you have a 200-foot stack emitting the steam from that system into the atmosphere. That is the opposite of a closed loop system. That is an open system. But when I asked him if he had seen those schematics, because he talked about, quote, how cool it was and how interesting it was of what they had created, he said no. that was just what they had told him. And so that piece of it bothered me, that he's making an opinion about their process system without seeing anything. Because if we had only relied on what we've been told by Rockwool up to this point, it's very different than a lot of the documents we've seen, and their sewer bills from their other plant that we've seen don't match up with what they say, and various other things. So I would encourage the city to, and Mr. Mayor, if you believe that they will, hand over their, complete plumbing schematics, please, I encourage you to ask them for it. I don't think they have much interest in responding to any correspondence from me. But I think without that, it's kind of futile when you want to analyze something and what you want to analyze is being contained by who you're actually trying to get it from. They're keeping what they don't want us to see.
Well, just to clarify, Mr. Eckenrode, if I'm saying that correctly, he's hired by the city. He's representing the city, not Charlestown Utilities or anybody else. So he's looking at it from an engineer, from, okay, what's going into our sewer system? So give me the drawings that indicate what's going into our sewer system. So the impression that I got from Mr. Eckenrode, you see, I'm not an engineer, I'm looking at the drawings and, I won't say it's Greek to me, but I don't understand everything. He's the guy, he's the engineer that we hired saying, look, we want to know what's going into our sewer system.
And I agree, we did hire him. I don't know how, I think if you really drilled him down, he would recognize that, but I don't think he sees much of a difference between the city of Charlestown and the Charlestown Utility Board. In my session, it struck me because he actually said, when he was telling us how he became involved in this project, I was hired by the Charlestown Utility Board. Now, I know that's not the case. I know that we approached him for this project, but I think in his mind, that wasn't necessarily the case, that he sees us as one entity. And so I don't think it's quite fair that he believes 100% that he's working for us. I think he sees it as one envelope.
Okay, I don't necessarily see that as a negative, but I'll concede that point, if you will. But So the idea is to get these drawings out with an engineer to kind of go through with a Rockwool representative to kind of go through these drawings to answer any questions that you may have a good idea there, Gina. I don't know how that would actually work, but we could work on that.
We'll see if the questions are overwhelming. If so, we can restructure that. But that is a way to organize our thoughts and try to summarize the questions that the public still may feel are unanswered.
And I would say that as far as the as-built drawings, you get them when it's built. That's why they call them as-built, is my understanding. So I don't think that we're going to get the complete final as-built drawings until everything's built.
Well, I mean, that's absolutely right. I mean, what we do have, though, are and I did ask for the most current version of them. I can't remember exactly what the lettering is in front, but it's, for construction, basically. I mean, which I recognize is not 100% of what the as-built will be. And I think even they've acknowledged in the one conversation that I had with Peter that there were still some questions about where the meter goes in the system that will measure flow and contact.
And the sampling system.
That's what I mean, yeah. So I think everyone will acknowledge that they're not 100%. They're definitely not 100%. But they're the ones the contractors are using to build the system at the moment.
The sanitary side of the system, not what the contractors are using. That is not the full set that their contractors have to build their plant at the moment.
Right, but the sanitary system is what we're concerned with.
I think our concern is that the only thing that is tapped into us is the sanitary system.
Right.
But it is hard to, it is hard to determine that if we don't get to see the full system. And that's my point. The one piece that was pointed out, the explanation was, oh, well, that must be a typo. They must have meant, and maybe it was. Maybe that was a typo. But it's hard to determine that when you can't see the full plans.
Well, except that, I mean, the plans that we have seen, though, do have the process water system and the sanitary system.
The ones that were in MyGov did. That is not what was submitted to us and then forwarded on to Mr. Eckenrode. Or at least he had never seen the documents that we printed out. Were you at? I don't think you were.
He was not.
He had never seen some of the schematics from what you and I had received from the utility board earlier in the summer.
That's right. So the May version.
The MyGov documents. And those included process.
It was interesting because the one...
okay, I was going to say,
some process.
I think the one thing that you printed out that day did not even go into the sanitary system, right? But it wasn't.
Well,
it was poorly marked on the.
Some of that page did because there were restrooms on that page.
Exactly.
So certainly some of that page.
But the eye wash station in the lab and all that kind of stuff. So, all right. I guess what we're kind of looking for here is, should we move forward with the? Are we ready to move forward with the workshop? Thank you. I kind of think we are. The more information we give to the public on this, the better, I think. Say again?
I agree.
So are we, before we decide that, I mean, what are we looking for who presents at the workshop? Originally, we were moving toward the notion that our engineer would present at the workshop. But I'm wondering if I'm hearing them say, again, well, if it's more than what goes into the sewer system, and it's the process water system as well, that's back to probably Rockwool doing that presentation with our engineer listening, and again, maybe asking follow-up questions or supplemental questions that may be submitted. Is that the case, or is it our engineer basically trying to walk through? Our engineer will get out to the site. That's the other thing we haven't done yet, so where he can physically see, what the structure looks like and where the process water system goes and where the supposedly closed loop system exists. So,
the closed loop system, as you're exactly right, and Mr. Eckenrode, he acknowledged that it wasn't closed loop because of the stack. It's closed loop in the fact that none of that processed water goes into the sewer system, the way it's currently set up. So, I mean, I think you kind of concur with that. But you don't have to. That's fine. But I kind of think that our engineers our engineer has studied the drawings. He's had his questions. He's basically the guy that's working for us. So I'm thinking that he presents, this is what I see. We have a member, an engineer, or Mr. Rettenberg. I think it'd be great if he was here to answer any questions that will come up during the session. It's kind of the way I see it, but I'm not, totally set on that. But I kind of think that would be the best way, the most productive way forward. What say y'all? I'm having trouble speaking here tonight. I don't know if you can tell.
I think it needs to be both. I think that Mr. Eckenrode needs to be here with
Oh, definitely, he definitely needs
with
to be
the
here.
counterpart that he is dealing with at Rockwool, because he seems to have a very good relationship with that gentleman. He said he'd worked with him on projects in the past. I think it would be beneficial to have both of them there.
Yeah, I agree with you. But so the presentation would be, are you thinking that it should be our engineer or should it be Rockwool giving the presentation?
I think it should be Rockwool giving the presentation. And then our engineer or any one of us can ask them questions. Jean says she's going to get questions from the general public to
I'm gonna try.
ask, and we can ask them if we think it's appropriate.
In the video, they go on to vote to have the engineer come from Rockwool and their engineer and present at a forum sometime in February on a Thursday. There are several issues here to note. First, when they refer to the process water and the sanitary sewer in the meeting, they completely neglect the industrial sewer. The industrial sewer does not appear on any of the plans that either Jefferson County Foundation has received or the city has received. The industrial sewer will be delivered to CTUB for processing. The process water is the water that stays at Rockwool and is reused, stored in their reuse ponds on the site. That is the closed loop system that they refer to, that we all know is not actually closed loop. Another issue is that the suggestion from Ms. Petty that we all submit questions that were not asked in their small group meetings is not adequate because we don't know what was discussed in their small group meetings. This is precisely the problem with the city having meetings that are closed to the public. We don't know what happens during those meetings. This is why there is the Open Meeting Act. They had small group meetings so that they did not have to have them open to the public. There's no way for us to know without FOIAing the information from those meetings what happened in those meetings, and therefore no way for us to formulate questions to submit to the council members. We will still be submitting questions. We will just have to submit all the questions that we have. We have also FOIA'd to find out what happened during those meetings and how those meetings came about. Mr. Hennessy has let us know that he's very busy and it will take him some time to get that information together. We may or may not have that information prior to the workshop. The next issue is that the up-to-date sewer plans must be obtained and evaluated by the engineer prior to this workshop, or the workshop is not actually that valuable. The as-built plans are not finalized as the building has not completely been built, but there must be more up-to-date plans than the ones that we received from September. As it was pointed out by the city's engineers, there are many spots on the plans that show changes have been made after the September plans, but they are not up to date. We are asking the city to continue to pursue up-to-date sewer plans prior to the workshop. Thanks for watching.